Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
Welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame. Well, Jim, another boring week in NHL labor talks as we near the 80th day of this lockout. There were some meetings, but they were destined to fail right from the beginning, I think.
Jeff, anytime you hear the words non-binding mediation, don't get your hopes up. It's a brainstorming session between two sides that don't want to share ideas and can't agree on what's wrong. Here's how bad it must have been. Mediators have their job is to find things like this, get in the middle of it, and try and sort them out. The mediators, after 2 days, were like, this is going nowhere. We're kind of wasting our time. So the guys they brought in for that purpose were like, I don't know. I think you guys, no. So that was that. That was pathetic.
And you were impressed by the next move by the NHL after those talks broke off, though, eh?
Oh, my God. Yeah, because when non-binding mediation doesn't work, why not schedule a meeting between the players and owners with none of the decision makers there?
Right.
That should help the process along, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to. Because, nothing else has worked, so why wouldn't this work?
Hey, as long as Jeremy Jacobs, the owner of the Boston Bruins, isn't in the room, then I'm okay. Whatever.
You know what happens then? They say, hey, we got some good ideas. A good meeting, guys. And then they go back to their own groups, and the people in charge say,
nah.
Well, here's why that's a bad idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And they go, oh, yeah. And the NHL owners only need 8 teams to veto, so.
Oh, totally. That actually does blow my mind, though, going back a section to the mediators left. Like, these people do this for professionally, Jim. Like,
yeah.
And they're like, nah, there's no hope. So
with like much harsher situations than like two groups who share a pile of money.
Yes. Well, exactly, right? Like
it's not like things are bad. It's like things are good, but we both want a bigger share of the goodness.
Brutal. While more NHL news, there was a big development on the Phoenix Coyotes front this week. So what's the news there?
Yeah, the city of Glendale voted in favor of a 20-year, $320 million arena management deal with the new potential owner of the team, Greg Jameson. The thing is, though, Glendale has to cut millions from its general fund, which means layoffs over the next 5 years. I know it's a tough situation because if you have that building with no main tenant, it's probably more of a drain on the city than it is to have a main tenant in that building that you've been paying for the last few years. It's bleeding money. But Glendale's really putting itself out there a bit, and I wonder if the deal will even get done. Like, there's been 4 or 5 potential owners over the years since the NHL became the owner, and it never seems to work out. So I guess this is good news if you're a Coyotes fan, because, we rip on the Coyotes in the Glendale situation quite a lot. But it is always tough to see. There are fans there. There might not be a ton of fans there, but there are fans there. And it's always tough to see fans lose a team because, in all likelihood, you're never getting a team back.
Right.
It doesn't happen that much. It happened with Winnipeg, but it doesn't happen that often. So that, that part of it, you hate to see it. You hate to see a team or fans lose a team. But at some point here, somebody's got to just say, you know what? It didn't work out.
I don't know, man.
But if this owner has the money, which I don't even know if that's a sure thing. If he has the money and he's got this lease deal and he can make it work, good for him. But I don't think they're going to start selling out games right away here.
No, they're definitely not. And I don't know about, it seems like there is no point where someone's going to say, nah, we're good, we're out. Because Bettman won't let it happen. And I really do think it's him. Not just I can't see the other owners being like, hey, Gary, you know what we should do is we should keep the Phoenix Coyotes because that's going well for us, right? I
like paying my share.
Yes.
Of a team I don't own.
That's exactly right.
Gary.
Down in the WHL, there was a huge story this week. So what did the Portland Winterhawks do to get fined $250,000, lose their coach, who is also the GM, and forfeit 9 draft picks over the next few years, Jim?
Yeah, how about that? A league investigation showed they were paying for flights for players' parents. They were paying for some summer training programs for players. and providing a cell phone for the team captain over 3 seasons. Those were among the violations. One violation triggered the independent investigation, and they turned up 54 infractions over those 5 seasons. So I guess the WHL is trying to send a message. None of the stuff seemed overly, outrageous. Like it wasn't any, Hollywood movie type stuff that they were doing, but there was enough infractions that, the league's saying, okay, well, maybe this looks like an overreaction, but we're trying to send a message. That's what I take from it. They lose 5 first-round bantam draft picks. That's tough for a team.
That's really
and the money, the coach, the GM, like they really went to town on them. And it's probably a warning shot to all the other teams that may or may not be doing similar things. That like, hey, if we catch you, here's the precedent.
Yeah, that's what I hear it is. You're right. None of those 54 infractions were overly big, but it was that, and I hear it was also there had been some talks between the WHL and the Winterhawks saying, all right, like, clean it up. Like, this was almost like the WHL saying, we talked to you about this, right? Like, that wasn't just in the back of my head. Like, we actually talked to you about this, right? But yet you still did it? Yeah, we're going to hit you.
Kind of sounds like the bounty thing a little bit.
Yeah. And
where the NFL was kind of like, hey, guys, stop it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
like, okay, it's done. All right. You haven't done it yet? Oh, you didn't think we were serious? I'll show you how serious we are.
That's probably our bad. That's probably our bad. I shouldn't have put the winky face at the end of the email.
Exactly. Let's talk a little NFL right now. You've got the 49ers as your team to win it all this year. And they're having a little bit of controversy at quarterback right now.
Controversy.
Yeah, I like that.
I do. Well, Alex Smith was the guy at quarterback until he got a concussion a few weeks back. Now he's number 2 on the depth chart behind Colin Kaepernick. It's not like the team is struggling,
no.
But Smith says he feels like the only thing he did to lose his job is get a concussion. And I believe we've heard this type of thing over the years where a guy's frustrated because, the only thing I did to lose my job was get hurt.
Yeah.
And concussions, concussions are an injury that a lot of guys will cover up if they can, right? And I've heard as much from different NFL players over the last couple of weeks here. And so that's got to be doubly frustrating that, I bet part of them was thinking like, hopefully I can pass this test. I probably have a concussion, but hopefully they let me stay in. Because I know, like, you're a pro athlete. Like, you get there by being an extremely competitive person.
That's right.
So the question is, does this type of situation affect a player's thought process when it comes to concussions? And, you got the same sort of thing going on in Philadelphia where Michael Vick is getting frustrated about not playing because of a concussion. He was saying that, he thinks it's convenient for the team that he has this concussion so they can play their other quarterback without actually having to sit him. And, the team had to come out and say, well, he didn't pass any of the tests. It's not us that decides it. We send the tests away and they tell us. But it's that attitude, right? And other players have come out and said, yeah, of course I'd cover up a concussion.
Absolutely.
So we've talked over the years here about what it'll take to change that mentality. And I'll be honest with you, I'm starting to think there is nothing that will change that mentality because in the last year in pro sports in North America, we've seen guys with degenerative brain conditions due to concussions killing themselves. We've seen them, we've seen a slew of former NFLers suing the league over concussions because they're now having all these health problems in their later years. It's not like any of these guys are ignorant to the fact that concussions are a bad thing that are really ruining the lives of a lot of people who didn't take them seriously enough.
Right.
But to still have that attitude, and you got to feel for Alex Smith because really all he did was get a concussion, and now maybe he's not the guy in San Francisco ever again. Maybe he's traded in the offseason because this other guy took his job. But it just comes down to that, right?
Yeah,
maybe he doesn't get a concussion, wins him a Super Bowl, and and this other guy never gets a shot. So I don't know. I don't know if the NFL's got to get involved, in some kind of way, like. I mean, this next story we're going to talk about kind of gets into that territory. But should the NFL come out and say, well, if this guy's a designated starting player, then if he's out with an injury, he has to come back within. Well, once he's healthy, you have to put him back in within a couple weeks or something.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the way that anybody wants this to go, but maybe that's the only way to get players to fess up about concussions.
Yeah, and maybe that's exactly
maybe you can have you can have roster players, and then you can have a handful of guys that you designate as starters. And if a designated starter gets hurt, then there's rules that kick in. Maybe that is the only way to get the superstars of a league to actually legitimately, deal with the concussion problem head on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't see it happening. I really don't. Especially, like I said, what we've seen in North American sports over the past year between hockey, we'll throw wrestling in there just because of the Chris Benoit stuff. But football, former players, current players, the number of concussions that we're seeing, hockey, it's a problem. But we're still at the same stage as far as the mentality towards concussions goes, and I don't know. I don't know what changes it.
No, I agree. And what Jim's talking about is a big story. Further on to that, also, I liked when he said that I don't know how we're going to handle concussions head on. That was interesting. Big story in the NBA this week, which maybe took some of the heat off of Gary Bettman for the worst commissioner out there. What happened to the San Antonio Spurs, and then tie it into the NFL here?
Yeah, now when I talk about the league meddling in a team's lineup, this one's amazing. Ahead of a nationally televised game against the Miami Heat, which was the fourth game in 5 nights for the San Antonio Spurs, Coach Greg Popovich decided to rest 4 of his big-name guys, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Danny Green. Now, they had been on, I think they had played 11 road games this month. Popovich said an 8-day trip and a 10-day trip, and then this was 4 and 5 nights. These guys are a little older,
Yeah, 3 of those guys are older than 3 of those guys are old.
Yeah. One of the guys is young, but they were saying Danny Green. They were saying his minute count was quite
really
high on the trip, and fair enough. And another thing to mention is that the Spurs heading into this game were 13-3, and the Heat were 10-3. So it was a marquee matchup, nationally televised, defending champs against one of the normally elite teams in the league, who are having a great season again so far. Commissioner David Stern lost his mind over it. Before the game even started, he said substantial sanctions would be coming, and he didn't back down either. I thought he would, because what happened in the game was that the Spurs almost won.
That's right.
They ended up losing 105-100 or something like that, but they were leading right up to the very end. And David Stern, a day later, when all of us thought, well, he can't actually fine them for it, can he? $250,000 for not informing the Heat, the media, or the league office in a timely way.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what to make of that, but I think that's a very dangerous precedent for the league to be setting, because how do you, especially when the Spurs were right there and could easily have won that game. Say they win the game, how do you really justify finding them? And it's not like this. Okay, they're a great team, but no one's ever been like, "Oh man, I can't wait to watch the San Antonio Spurs."
Oh man, I can't wait to watch Manu Ginobili. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, they're the New Jersey Devils of the NBA.
Right.
They're
That's
an effective
exactly
team
right.
that doesn't play an attractive style.
That's right.
And just because it's on national TV, and let's not make Greg Popovich out to be a saint here. You'd think you'd want all your starters against the Heat, even as like even if it's not nationally televised. You want to make a statement against the defending champs, or maybe the statement was that we can play with you without our stars
and still win.
My bench players are going to give you a game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the message, but I just don't think the commissioner should be able to do that. That's ridiculous. So now is he gonna look over every roster, make sure the guys on the top 10 jersey list are in that game before
But that's exactly it. Maybe he should, Jim. I'm saying this is entertainment. They talk about this all the time, that this is entertainment. That's why the fans are there, especially in the NBA, because they are there you can tell where ratings are going to go by the top 10 jersey list. It's crazy. You can't really do that with the NHL, but you can with the NBA, especially for nationally televised games. So I don't know, man. Like, for the betterment of the league as a whole, maybe there's got to be something like you were talking about. There are 3 marquee players, and you've got to have one of them to play in each one. Doesn't the NHL have something like that for the for their exhibition games, that they have to have X number of starters play?
I think they do. Yeah, I think they do. But, okay, if the San Antonio Spurs are doing it every week,
then it's something.
But we're talking about one game. Yeah. And like I said, you look at the circumstances going in. 4 games in 5 nights.
I agree about
11
that.
games away from home, and I don't know. And maybe it was that, like, those guys weren't even there. Like, they were sent home.
That's the
they
thing.
were
Keep them, sit them. Start them for 2 minutes, put them on the starting lineup, and sit them. That's actually, as a coach, that's probably what I would have done.
If I was Greg Popovich, you know what I would do next game? I'd have all my stars sitting on the bench.
Oh, yeah.
What you gonna do, David Stern?
Exactly.
Do something.
Exactly. Well, finally, before we wrap up an incredibly long but really good rundown this week, what do you make of Lindsey Vonn considering legal action in her bid to race against men? Skiing, folks. This is skiing.
This is skiing.
Yes.
If she's the best, then the natural thing to try, I suppose, is to go race against the men. Sometimes people get weird about it when it's a woman trying to compete against men, but if the organization itself isn't too keen on it because she's a woman, I don't know. That's kind of a weird reason. It's because you're a woman. That's why you can't race against men.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of a strange answer.
Yeah.
Why not put it up to a vote among the athletes she'd be competing against?
Well, okay.
I don't even know if that's the right answer.
Are we talking World Cup or are we talking Olympics? If we're talking for money, no problem.
We're talking World Cup.
Exactly, right? No problem. Compete against whoever for the biggest amount of money possible. That's what the World Cup's about. If we're talking Olympics, then I got to go with you compete against. That's how the Olympics go. But.
Okay, but we're letting guys with fake legs race.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that's kind of in the same question. Is like, okay, well, she's a woman. She can't race against men. Well, that guy has fiberglass legs or whatever. Why? Yeah. It's sort of the same. Like, I don't know if ethical question is the right word, but it's I don't know. I think Olympics or World Cup. It's a bit weird, and the whole point of it, is there's a men's category and a woman's category. This one you find out the best man. This one you find out the best woman. Why not at the end of the World Cup circuit have the top 5 men and the top 5 women all compete against each other?
I like that one. I like that.
That's probably better.
That's a great idea.
But what harm does it do to have Lindsey Vonn in there? I guess maybe if you're like a bubble athlete on the men's side and you get kicked out because Lindsey Vonn is in, you'd be rattled. But I mean,
be better.
Yeah, well, yeah, and think of the attention this would draw, even if only for a weekend or two, to the World Cup circuit.
That's true.
I don't watch skiing. I'd probably check it out.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we're going to move on to the GABBYs now. These are the good and bad by you. And let's give a good to Ronda Rousey. She showed up a couple of times on our GABBYs, mostly on the good side. She's a 25-year-old who recently became the UFC's first female fighter. She's 6-0 in MMA, with each victory coming by, an opening round armbar. She's absolutely amazing. So what's the key to her success? Rousey told Jim Rome this week that having sex raises testosterone levels in women. So she tries to have as much of it as she possibly can before a big fight. We hate to be completely sexist or misogynistic on this show, but if she needs a little hand, I could put myself out and help her out.
Yeah, when I saw that story, that was my reaction.
That was your reaction. No talking.
Thing about arm bars is that
that's right.
I blacked out. What happened?
What happened? Did I get armbar submission?
Ronda Rousey, you're the best.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know that?
Absolutely.
The best. Forbes magazine listed the Toronto Maple Leafs as the NHL's most valuable team this week, coming in at $1 billion. It's good because they're worth so much, despite an amazing lack of success on the ice. just to remind you, in case anyone outside of Toronto has forgotten, they haven't made the playoffs since 2004. Even the Oilers have been in the playoffs since then.
That's right.
And, of course, they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. At least people keep on buying tickets.
See, this is my argument against Phoenix Coyotes. It's like, oh, if they'd put good product on the put a good product on the ice, and they'd get people coming to the. No, that's not true.
They had a good
Toronto
product.
Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Phoenix had a good product.
They did, absolutely. I agree.
Still average like 11 or 12,000. But in Toronto, some reason, I don't know.
They just keep going.
$1 billion, man.
Let's give a good to Kevin Love of the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team we spoke about a couple of weeks ago in the Punchline, as a matter of fact. Love had 23 points and, get this, 24 rebounds for the NBA's first 2020 game of the season. If you remember, we talked about this a little bit. Love missed the first 9 games of the year with a broken hand, and he's coming back. He looks great.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah, absolutely.
23 points, 24 rebounds.
Oh, man.
Come on.
Crazy.
Probably not a very exciting product. Probably just a ploy to sell tickets.
Yeah, that's probably exactly it. Yeah.
Let's give a bad to FIFA for leaving Canadian striker Christine Sinclair off its final 3 for the Women's Player of the Year award. Sinclair lit it up this year, and really most years for Canada, scoring a hat trick in the Olympic semifinal loss to the U.S. She then got in trouble for some comments made about the officiating in that game. I wonder if that's the reason, but either way, absolute disgrace to have her off that list.
That is absolutely the reason, Jim. Make no mistake. Girl suspended for 3 games or whatever it is. I'm absolutely appalled by this decision by FIFA. This was an absolute no-brainer that she gets on the final 3. No-brainer. A hat trick in a huge game against the U.S., against horrible reffing the whole time. She played against not only the American team but the referee that game, and I still scored a hat trick. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's a disgrace.
It's an absolute disgrace. Let's give a bad to Mosaic Stadium in Regina. To get into the Christmas spirit a little, they had that burning Yule log up on the big TV screens. They had them up there, and that seems like a good idea. It's all cold out. You see the burning Yule log, you feel great about things and happy about Christmas until you see it from far away, and because it's on the big screen, remember, and it looks like the building is on fire. There were some calls to 911, and because of that, the video has since been changed. If they need something else, they can have a picture of me dressed as Santa Claus going back and forth. I think that would also bring Yule cheer.
I heard that some of the 911 calls, people reported smelling smoke too. It just shows you what the mind does.
What the mind does. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I can for sure smell smoke. It's just the TV. Is it? Oh,
never mind.
False alarm.
Yeah.
False alarm. Let's give a bad to the Phoenix Suns for offering a money-back guarantee for an upcoming game. If they lose to the Mavs on Thursday, fans can fill out an online form and get a refund. Yeah. This is a bad because that could bankrupt some teams. We finished last.
That's right.
3 years running now?
That's right. Absolutely.
Imagine the economic situation in the NHL if there was money-back guarantees.
That's fantastic. I absolutely love it. Love it. Good idea. The punchline this week is Dwight. Yeah, well, exactly. The punchline this week is Dwight Howard of the Los Angeles Lakers.
This is ridiculous. He lost a shooting contest to Bailey, the mascot of the LA Kings. He beat him on free throws, and then Howard said, "Okay, let's try 3-pointers." The guy who's 5'10", wearing a lion costume, was the first to hit 5 3-pointers, beating professional athlete Dwight Howard. They have a video of it. I watched it. He legitimately beats him.
How good is that guy?
He's
in the line?
He's wearing a big lion helmet and a hot he's 5'10",
and he's shooting from the far.
Howard's like 6'9".
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and Dwight Howard's amazing. Like, absolutely stunning. I loved it. Good for Bailey the Lion.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Well, folks, that's our 15 minutes up for fame up for this week. Join us again next week when we get a whole new 15 minutes of fame. In the meantime, I'm Jeffrey the Friendly Lion. Oh, and I lost Jim.
And my computer's frozen, but I think I'm still Jim Kerr.
There it is.
I'm back.